Hi there, it's Brett Hornby here with another sports take video. Doing double duty today. I've already did my Calgary Stampeders this month for July, but part of what I did mention during that video was Nik Lewis. I figure I've already made my Jerome McGinley video on my take and my little tribute on Jerome McGinley and his career. So I figure why not do one for Nik Lewis, who I personally thought is the best receiver the Calgary Stampeders had. It's only behind Alan Pitts, and definitely when you look at the numbers and where he's up there in the CFL receiving ranks of all time, that backs that up both with the Calgary Stampeders and the CFL. So let's get to it here with my Nik Lewis video. And so Nik Lewis, he actually came from a place called Mineral Wells, Texas, when he went to school in southern Arkansas. And also, when I looked on his Wikipedia page, in high school he did some track and he specialized in triple jump, which that definitely came in handy throughout his CFL career with the jumping that he did to avoid defensive tackles. But anyway, Nik Lewis, he had a pretty long career, which is pretty good for football. He played 14 seasons in the CFL from 2004 to 2017. Most notably, he did play 11 seasons with the Calgary Stampeders in 2004 to 2014, and then he finished off his career with the Montreal Alouettes from 2015 to 2017. He actually was holding out hope that maybe he would still get a contract for the 2018 season up until a month after and then he decided that, I guess it is time to call it quits. I mean, he's 36 years old, which kind of hurts when he says it's too old to say, because I'm 36, and actually Nik Lewis, he's actually only 9 days older than me personally. So, I mean, the sporting world, I guess when you get to the wrong side of 30, definitely it's a young man's game now, especially these days in the cap world. But anyway, a lot of his highlights that Nik Lewis did, mostly with the Calgary Stampeders, that he was the only bright spot for the Calgary Stampeders in 2004, as that season the Stampeders were 4-14, still in the midst of the F Troop days. I mean, Fred Fateri was gone, but Michael Federick still on the team. But you can actually credit Matt Dunnigan for this find, because he was the head coach and general manager, brought him in, and actually in 2004 he won the CFL's top rookie, and then he looked like he was someone special that could someone to build on for the future. And I'd say he definitely, he fulfilled that, because the one thing that Nik Lewis is right now, he's the all-time receptions leader with 1,059 catches, or no, 1,051 actually, sorry. But that's actually a CFL record. And only four, including him, only four other guys have made 1,000 plus catches in the CFL. Mainly with Terry Vaughn, Ben Cahoon, and G. Roy Simon. And G. Roy Simon was the guy that he passed to be the all-time receptions leader. But he won the top rookie in 2004, and then of course he won 2 Grey Cups with my Calgary Stampeders. One in 2008, where he had a huge role in that, especially second and long. And then in 2014, where he was still a big leader on the team, but wasn't as a big part of the offense. He definitely gave a big emotional speech after when John Huffnagel gave his speech to his team, and it still gives me chills when I see how Nik Lewis gave his emotional speech. And thankfully, I got to watch him and the Calgary Stampeders win it live when I was in Vancouver. But the other thing that Nik Lewis has done, that only one other player has done one better, was that he had 10 1,000 yards receiving seasons. Him and Milt Stegall did that. That's just second of all time. Only Terry Vaughn had one more 1,000 yards receiving for 11. So he's up there. He's only one of 3 people in CFL history to only have 1,000 yard receiving, do that 10 times. And then all-time numbers. He's number 5 all-time in yards. with 13,778. Jeever Simon is the all-time yardage leader at 16,352, followed by Milt Stiegel at 15,153. And then Stampeder legend Alan Pitts is number 3 at 14,841. And then Darren Flutie, Doug's brother, had just a little more at 14,359. And then I'll mention Terry Vaughn again. He is actually number 6. He had 13,746. So Nik Lewis just edged him out to be in the top 5 in receiving yards of all time. And then he also caught 71 touchdowns for his career. And this is his entire career. Next thing I'm going to cover is just his Stampeder numbers, which is also quite impressive. He, in 11 seasons with the Calgary Stampeders, he had 805 receptions, 11,250 yards, and 65 touchdowns, which are all second only behind Alan Pitts. But the one record that he does own for the Calgary Stampeders, that he has 166 consecutive games with a catch. That's a Calgary Stampeders record. I believe Don Narcisse has the league record, and I think he had over 220 around there. Don Narcisse, the Saskatchewan Roughriders legend. So, I mean, that's pretty impressive to not only go through longevity to be able to make a catch, but at least make one catch. I mean, depending on, coverages and that. I mean, if you're able to last that long and to be able to at least make one catch, that's pretty impressive in football. And then I was looking at his numbers here, and I mean, it's hard to define what you could say his best seasons were. I mean, you could probably say 2008 and 14 because he won the Grey Cup. But I looked at individual numbers in 2005, which was his sophomore season, to show that the first season was a fluke. He had his most yards at 1,379, and that was his highest total for all of his career. And he had 9 touchdowns that season. But in 2008 and 2012, he had 10 touchdown receptions that season. And then talking about touchdown receptions, one thing he almost had that wouldn't necessarily say you would necessarily not want to have is that in 2009 he had over 1,000 yards receiving, and he only had 1 touchdown catch, and he didn't get that till very late in the season. And one of the things Nik Lewis will always be remembered for is his colorful, loud personality, and he's definitely the kind of receiver, as I find entertaining, that he's always tough to bring down because he was almost built like a linebacker. And CFL polls definitely the players said that Nik Lewis was a beast to bring down, and I always mentioned that he leapt over defenders to get that extra yard, but he was also entertaining in the end zone and definitely did a lot of dancing. We had guys like Jermaine Copeland and Kenyon Rambo, but I found it hilarious that I remember in 2009, it was late in the season, he finally got a touchdown reception and he had the ball and he was like, "What do I do with it?" Like, that was his celebration, and eventually he just dropped it and ran away. I mean, that was almost as funny as all his other wacky celebrations that he had with, Jermaine Copeland. I mean, those are fun days, and I was glad to watch that and see him be a part of that. But let's say in 2013, unfortunately, actually I remember that game because I actually made a trip to Vancouver, and I think this might have started his downfall of his career. But in 2013, he suffered a bad injury where he had to miss half the season, and I think there might have been an outside chance that if the Calgary Stampeders went to the Grey Cup that year, he might have played in the Grey Cup. But they weren't trying to rush him back, but he definitely had a leg injury. And then in 2014, he only had 377 yards. I mean, he wasn't that big go-to primetime receiver that season. And then after, when he was a free agent, I personally wanted him to still be a Stampeder, but I can also understand in the business of the game, if you have some up-and-coming receivers, which the Stampeders had at that time, and I'd say this past season they went through a youth movement. Well, they definitely went through a youth movement with the receiving core that year. They had enough depth that Nik Lewis was let go. He wasn't re-signed, but then he did actually sign with the Montreal Alouettes, and he didn't have as many touchdowns, but he did pretty well with Montreal, considering they've been in a funk the last few years, especially when they haven't been able to find a quarterback since Anthony Calvillo retired. Actually, in fact, in 3 seasons with the Montreal Alouettes, he only had 6 touchdowns in the 3 seasons. But in 2016, he actually had a little bit of resurgence and had 1,136 yards, and that was his best season with the Montreal Alouettes. But now, all these great numbers that I mentioned in the playoffs, this is all with the Calgary Stampeders, because the Montreal Alouettes did not make the playoffs the 3 seasons that Nik Lewis was there. In 15 games, he had 56 receptions for 648 yards, but believe it or not, as great as a receiver he was, he did not receive a touchdown at all in the playoffs, which that's shocking. That's pretty stunning. He did not get a touchdown in the playoffs, despite being one of the greatest receivers of all time, first ballot Hall of Famer, and he'll definitely have his number on the the Wall of Fame at McMahon, and one day he'll be out in the classic car, what football teams do when they honor their greats. Well, he did not receive a touchdown, and I actually do remember going back to the Grey Cup. Nik Lewis was determined to get that touchdown. I remember he was trying to move the pile, and I think he got stopped at the 2-yard line. Eventually, Calgary scored a touchdown on that drive, but Nik Lewis was really determined that I wanted to get that touchdown. And then now that his playing career is over, I understand that he lives in Regina in the off season, because I think his wife is from there, and actually this past off season during the Riders camp, he was a guest coach there. So I think in terms of the future of Nik Lewis, you'll still probably see him out in the field, not on the field, but on the sidelines, because he definitely has aspirations to be a coach, and I'd say why not. I could see him being an offensive coordinator. I know Jermaine Copeland has been a receivers coach throughout the league. Not too sure if he is coaching right now, but it would be nice to see Nik Lewis come back and be a coach. He definitely loves the game and has the personality, but that's my Nik Lewis tribute video. I mean, it's not as long as Jerome McGinley, but hockey and football, they're different animals, and hockey season is much longer, and Jerome McGinley had a much longer career than Nik Lewis, but playing 14 seasons of professional football is definitely nothing to sneeze at. But if you enjoy everything that I do, post on my YouTube channel, doing my sports takes and my scenery videos, make sure you hit like and subscribe, and anyway, I'll see you at the next video.